Hey guys, Bart from TST Industries here. In this video we're going to show you the installation of this TST Industries integrated taillight on a Yamaha YZF R3. This taillight is a direct replacement for the OEM unit. The installation is a snap, takes a couple minutes. All the connectors are pre-wired onto the harness, so it's a plug-and-play installation, and it is available in a choice of smoked or clear lens. Now for this installation we will have a clear lens installed, but you guys can check out the smoked one on our website. Now what's unique about our light? We have drastically redesigned the geometry of the lens component here, and that really carries through all of the lines of this motorcycle and revamps the tail and makes it look really cool. The other really cool feature is the programming button. This button remains accessible from the trunk compartment after installation, so you could change your light programs on this light on the fly. All it takes is the removal of the passenger seat, and you press the button and you can toggle through 9 different combinations of light programs. We'll show you the light program sequences later on after installation, and right now we'll just get right into the nitty-gritty of the steps required to put this on your bike. As you can see here, we've already eliminated the fender on this particular bike and replaced that with a TST Industries Elite 1 fender eliminator and undertail kit. For this video, we're only going to focus on the steps required for the replacement of the OEM taillight with our taillight, and should you need any help with the steps required for the removal of the OEM fender and the electrical components on the fender, we will stick an appendix chunk in the end of this video, and that'll help you get through that installation. So without further ado, let's start the installation of our taillight. So in the first step, we will remove the passenger seat, and we can put that to the side, and we're going to proceed to the removal of these 2 fasteners using a 4mm Allen, and that will give us access to this panel and be able to remove that. Once these screws are out, we'll need to flex the tail just like this and pop this out, both sides, put it to the side. Now using an 8mm socket, we will remove the screws holding the driver's seat on, and that enables us to remove the driver's seat and put it to the side. So in the next step, we will be removing these 2 Phillips head fasteners. That will enable us to take the center tail rear panel off the bike. And that is done by pulling it towards the rear of the bike, lifting up on it, and then pushing it towards the front of the bike again. That clears it out of its captive geometry. Next, we will be removing the 4 quarter-turn fasteners located in these positions. As you turn it, it pops out, it unlocks it. All of these will come out the same way. I'll put those to the side. So now we jump to the bottom of the bike, and we will remove 4 more of the same quarter-turn fasteners from these locations here. And now this will give us enough flex in the side panels so that we could pop these off from the grommets that are on the taillight. Alright, so the idea behind the last step I described is to remove this friction fastener from the grommet, the rubber grommet that resides in the side of the taillight enclosure. And once you do that on both sides, with a couple more screws, and then the taillight will be free to come out. Alright, so now we'll need to remove this trunk liner, and that's done by the removal of 2 more quarter-turn plastic fasteners, one on either side of this tray. And then that tray comes out, and we can now proceed to the removal of the plug, taillight plug here. This is done by pressing on this tab and then pulling back on this plug. What I like to do is use a screwdriver, a little mini flathead under here, And that makes that tab easy to press down as I pull away. The tab I'm talking about here. All right, once that's done, we'll just route this wire back all the way to the end here right by the tail light and get the tail light ready for removal. At this point, all we have to do is remove these two fasteners and the tail light will come out. Now, these fasteners have these sleeves on them. I like to take them out before I extract the tail light out of the bike, and that's because they are loose in these grommets, and during the removal they can slip out and fall into the bike. It's hard to find them, so I'm proactive and take them out beforehand. It just makes everything easier. All right, so now we'll be able to remove this tail light because it's completely free from all of the geometry that holds it on, all the fasteners, and we'll be able to put that to the side and move forward with the reinstallation. At this point, it'll be necessary to deconstruct the OEM tail light and remove some of the fastening components that we have still on here in order for transfer to our TST Industries light. So first I will remove these threaded tabs, and then I will need to remove these grommets. Perhaps the easiest way to do that is with needle-nose pliers. We have two up top here, and also one on either side. Now, when you take the side ones out, notice that there is a smaller diameter, a larger diameter. The smaller diameter goes towards the inside of the light, and the larger diameter sticks out. Once all of these are out, we can replace them on our new tail light. When I get these in, I try to make sure that on both sides I don't have any pinched edges and that they're distributed evenly. That looks good. Get the side ones in, smaller diameter first. Everything looks good. Now with these tabs, these are threaded on one side and have a through hole on one side. The through hole goes on top, and the threaded component needs to be on the bottom. You also have this little window in the back here, and there's a tab on the tail light that fits through it and locates these two components. Once you get it to this point, this is ready to be put back into the bike. I'm gonna undo the twisty tie here and get the wire stretched out. And all right, now we can transfer this onto the bike. So now we will get the wires from the tail light in through the left side of the motorcycle and get them routed to the inside of the trunk compartment here. Now we can get the taillight capsule into place. It does have a tab on the bottom here that needs to fit a little window in the undertail. So once we get it positioned with that tab in that window, we can then position the rest of these panels around that. So now I'm going to get that friction fastener into that side grommet on both sides. And once that pops in and everything looks like it's lined up properly, I'm going to grab the taillight screws with their sleeves and get those in place. Once those are in, they can be tightened immediately. so leave some play in the system. And now we can go ahead and plug the taillight in. I like to make sure that it's routed on the side here. What also helps is if you pull up on the starter relay and get all the wires behind this tab here and put these wires back on and the relay. That helps keep everything in place and routed properly. So now this main plug will be replaced in the main taillight female plug, and that's ready to go. Our signal plugs are in here. If you are removing your OEM Fender as part of this installation, the signals will be unplugged from here. On this particular bike, we don't have signals on at the moment, so we'll be plugging our integrated taillight signal portion into these two. So I just powered up the bike, and I will now figure out which connector goes into which harness connector. We have black and gray. I think I got them backwards. So now I'll just reverse them and make sure that everything's all right. I have the right signal going, left signal. It looks like everything's going good here. One thing I want to note is that on this particular bike, we have a Gen 2 LED flasher relay that we produce, and that causes the flash rate to be at 85 cycles per minute, no matter what kind of signaling equipment you use. I'll show you guys quickly what happens when you use the OEM relay. You go into a hyper flash situation. So we strongly suggest using our Gen 2 relay on this motorcycle to prevent hyper flash. If you'd like to see how that's installed, we do have a separate installation video on our channel. You can access it through our LED flasher relays playlist or through our website on this product page. All right, so now we're going to continue with the reinstallation of all of the components that we've removed to access all of these aspects here. Once you have all your wiring nice and neat here, you can start replacing some of the components that were taken off. We're going to start with this tray here, and the bump on the left side of the bike goes over this relay. And once you align these holes with the accepting holes on the subframe, you could pop these in. And once you get the base flush against this surface, press in the center. Next, we can get this rear tail portion in. These tabs go in first, slide forward until we engage these locks in these windows, and then we slide towards the front of the bike, and that locks all of this geometry in place, and we place the screws. And now we can replace the other quarter turn fasteners that we've removed during this process here. I'm going to make sure that the painted portion is on top and the subframe is on the bottom. Okay, now we can replace the bottom quarter turn fasteners. Same procedure. Bottom out the base, press in the center. Next, we will reinstall the driver's seat. And now we can get the center tail panel back in. These tabs go in the bottom, and then we pry the sides out and then back in. Now that's ready to be fastened with the hardware that came out of there. So the last remaining step is to put the passenger seat back on the bike. And now this installation is complete and the bike's ready to go. All right, so now I will show you guys how to program all the different light functions on this tail light. We'll remove the passenger seat, power up the bike, and then find the programming button on the back of the light enclosure on bike right. And now I will just toggle through all the functions and show them to you guys. So the first step in this type of an installation is always to remove your license plate and retain the OEM license plate hardware so that we can reuse it on our new setup. Now the next step will be to remove the passenger seat. And now we will have to gain access under all these panels here to remove the driver's seat. Now I'll remove these two fasteners here from this panel. And this panel will need to be cleared by flexing tail fairing. It just comes out like that. Now we'll use a 8mm socket to remove these two. Seat will come out and put it to the side. So at this point we'll be removing this tray from the trunk compartment. This is done by removing this quarter turn rivet fastener and also another one just like it on the opposite side. And that releases this tray. And now we can find the wiring that we will need to disconnect. We have the license plate light and the two signals on the fender assembly that will have to be disconnected. On our bike, we have this protective sheath over the signal wires. I have noticed that on some bikes in some other regions in the world, this component doesn't exist. So if yours doesn't have it, all you'll have to do is find these two connectors, a gray and a black one, and just disconnect them. To disconnect these, you just pry up on the tab and just pull the male portion out. And now we will need to find the wire that goes to the license plate light. And that one is underneath here. We'll pull up on this starter relay so I could see this area better. So the license plate light uses a 2-position Sumitomo plug. Press down on the tab, withdraw it. Now we have that disconnected. We'll just have to route these wires to the trunk, to this area here where there's a hole through the sub tray to the underneath of the bike. In addition, we'll need to clear this clip here in the sub tray. Now that all three of these are loose and snaked back, we can put the relay back. The relay just sits on these tabs with its rubber keeper. Now we're ready to remove these 4 10mm fasteners, and we'll be able to drop down the entire fender assembly. So this step is pretty simple. Just gonna loosen these 4. I'm using a 10mm socket with an extension. You could actually use any 10mm tool, like an open-ended or something like that, whatever you have in your assortment of tools. So I'm going to take 3 out totally here, and I'm going to keep one on so I can support the fender assembly with my hand before I remove the last one so it doesn't just drop. I'll do that now. So at this point, you can just route the wires to the bottom of the bike, making sure they don't get snagged on anything, and we can proceed to the installation of our TST components.